welcome to the Big Apple School Podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you improve your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katja, I'm your host, and today with me...
I'm Gary.
I'm Inga.
Benjamin.
So, dear listeners, first of all, I would really like to thank you for all the comments we get, for all the discussions we make on VK. It's really fun, for recommendations you send.
Does that happen?
What do you mean, does that happen?
Well, I don't know.
Don't you check our VK page?
I do not. Should I check it? Is there even a VK page? See?
Outrageous. Of course you should. That's
right.
how I got recommendations about cartoons after the cartoon episode.
All right. Okay.
So,
well,
somehow we completely forgot
know.
about one of the cartoons. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. We forgot about that. So, thank you for all that. Even, there have been a situation which I don't think we've mentioned, but one of our listeners actually, while traveling, came to Novosibirsk to say hi. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I know you'll be listening to this. So hello. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our pages on VK, Yandex, Google, or any platform where you listen to our podcast, and let us know what you think about our show. You can give us stars, leave comments, so everyone but Gary will definitely reply and have a conversation with you. You can ask questions, which actually happens more on Instagram. So I sometimes get questions on my Instagram asking like, what does that mean? Or where is that? So thank you for that. It's really sweet. And you can even send your ideas about next episode. So what do you want us to talk about? We're always open to new ideas. So, and we are here today to talk about a very serious topic, actually, which is natural disasters.
Yeah.
I'm reading the room over here, like, how's everyone feeling? So, and first of all, what is a natural disaster? So what kind of things are we going to talk about today? What kind of disasters are these?
So anything that's not man-made. So for instance, volcanoes, meteorites, tsunamis, fires. Well, not all kinds of fires.
It's, Oh, volcanoes. That's actually a good one.
Yeah.
Tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, bushfires, of course.
There are so many horrible things that can happen. Kind of makes you think, that's good I live in Siberia when nothing really happens. So, and tell me, have you ever had any kind of experiences with natural disasters? Were you unfortunate too?
Of course, I have. I have experienced one, a serious one. But actually, I would like to begin with the comment that natural disasters are naturally caused, as Ben has already mentioned. And I have experienced earthquake in 1988 in Armenia.
No.
Oh, wow.
Not that one.
Yes, it was a serious one. I was 8 years old girl. I was waiting with my brother, waiting outside for my mom to take us to school.
It was a wedding day. Oh.
Yeah, it was just Wednesday. We were waiting for her outside. She was putting her coat and her boots to come out and to take us. Suddenly there was it was a hurricane, something like that. I was a girl, I was a little girl. So, and I could see buildings were folding like a house of cards. And there was a huge dust in the air.
No.
So I couldn't imagine what was that? What's going on here? Oh, come on. So we were crying, shouting, and going back into the entrance to the second floor to my mom. So to help us. We didn't know what to do. She was shouting us, go back, run away. Right. So it's not the place to be here. You should be just in a safe place. But we didn't want to listen to her. We wanted to be with her. And we ran to her. She took us in the steel frame of the door. We were standing there for a couple of minutes, and we stood there after aftershocks as well. There were dozens of aftershocks as well. After we took some documents, some money, and of course ran away, and we could see no buildings were standing except our entrance. Can you imagine? Our building was the long one with 6 entrances, but our entrance was the one that was standing.
Wow.
And it was a miracle, I guess. So I'm here with you today because of this miracle.
It's amazing. I never really thought of Armenia as a main place for as a
Oh,
place.
yeah.
for
Wait,
earthquakes,
but
yeah,
just-
earthquakes
Turkey
happen
and-
very often.
Very
there.
often, right? Very often.
Well, I guess you have the Caucasus Mountains, don't you?
Yes, of course, because of these mountains.
Inga, I have a question. Wait, where was it? Because I thought it was in the name called, I think it's like Spitak?
Yes, the epicenter was in town Spitak, but many cities just
And you're
my
from
own
Gyumri,
native.
right?
Yes, my Gyumri was also just collapsed.
Oh.
Spitak was leveled to the ground in 30 seconds. We had a lot of victims, a lot of children left homeless, and people didn't know where to live. They were standing, living, sleeping outside, just making a fire, sitting around, and just living there. Then came rescuers, of course, thanks, of course, these people, the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, European countries, the USA,
Well, I guess in situations
yes,
like that,
just they-
all the countries unite to help.
Yes, united, they helped us. They came, just brought excavating equipment, food, first aid, fuel, a lot of things. And they brought dogs, special dogs, to sniff and find people under the ruins. And of course, a lot of just European and the USA doctors that just presented second lives to people, disabled people, giving them prosthetic appliances. And a lot of people from Russia, people from the USA and other countries as well, adopted homeless and orphan children whose parents died. It was just
How long
great
did that
thing to do.
last? I mean, because I can't even think of like an earthquake. How long does it usually take?
It was really powerful, magnitude 9.
Oh, that's
And
huge.
yes, it was
Wait,
really
out of there are only like 10 or 9 actually.
Yeah, 9.
no 10.
10.
So it was really powerful, and there were a lot of aftershocks after this day. And of course, thanks to rescuers to come and help us. And nowadays we have special districts in cities, in the cities, Spitak, Vanadzor, and Gyumri. We have special districts that people, just American people, just English from Britain, right? Italians came and constructed buildings, hospitals, schools, and we have just separate buildings, just a Russian district, English district, Australian district, yes.
I guess there's no high-rise buildings in Armenia.
Not high rise, but the highest one was 10 floors,
Yeah,
if
fair
I'm not
enough,
mistaken.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's high enough. Yeah.
So I had a practice to work in a school named after Lord Byron, so
Oh,
that
cool.
English people constructed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know that there are movies about this earthquake. I know that there are there
There are a lot
movies.
of movies, right? The last one, a newest one, I can say that I saw it was movie of Sarik Andreasyan,
was
The
not-
Earthquake. It is
yeah.
really a realistic one.
Yeah, I know that people who actually have experienced it, and they all say that it's a great movie. There's no,
Yes.
no imagination, like nothing that was lied about, nothing that was sugar coated. Yeah, it's just
True facts.
Yeah, but I would. I think I tried to watch this movie, but I cried my eyes out. I'm like, I'm not ready to finish it. It was just too difficult. So I cannot imagine what it was like for people.
Yeah, so it was
I think
sad story.
I
right?
remember reading about it, and I think it's about 60,000 people who died in that earthquake.
25,000. 25,000 only in Gyumri.
Wow!
Only
And there
in
are
the
there have
city.
been several cities that have been
Yes, of
affected.
course.
I remember also reading that there is not in the town of Spitak, but somewhere not far there is a nuclear plant. And when the earthquake was happening, they were afraid that there might be another
Yeah, sure.
this nuclear catastrophe. And people were definitely, scared of that after, because after 1986 when Chernobyl just exploded. Luckily, though, so nothing happened to it. And after that, for 4 years after that, it only worked to a very limited capacity because they were afraid that there might be, some kind of consequences after the earthquake. So I think it's, it may sound weird in this situation, but, it's a good thing, at least, that at least this nuclear plant stayed.
Yes, it
It's
was
some kind
near
of
the capital of Armenia, Yerevan. Thanks God, it was okay. Nothing happened to this city. And it was near the capital, so that's why nothing happened to it.
Can you? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, whenever I'm just speaking about it, I'm just feeling the same
Of
things
course,
every time.
of course. Well, it's good that you don't have any kind of, like PTSD, because, that's quite a traumatic experience, I would believe.
Yeah.
And also, first I'm going to ask about your experience, and then we're going to talk in more detail about earthquakes in general.
Yeah, I did not have an experience, but my mother did.
With what natural disaster?
Hurricane.
Ooh.
My mother lives in
Florida?
South Florida, Southwest Florida.
Was that Katerina?
This was Irma.
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 Oh.
Yeah. And this was 2017, which was 4 years ago. My mother she's still alive, thankfully, and she was 89 years old and about to turn 90. And I'm watching this whole thing, and we're watching this whole thing, because the difference between a hurricane and an earthquake and a lot of these other things is that you've got days of warning. Because they really track it, and they can't exactly predict what it's finally going to do, because it adjusts. But I mean, they've got satellites on this thing, because it's just, it's the kind of thing you can do that. So I'm watching this, and my mother's, everybody, Florida's watching it, and the East Coast of the United States is watching it. And it was supposed to go up the East Coast, which would be Miami and so forth. Okay. And I don't wish this on any area, but it shifted like a couple of days before to the West Coast. And it was going right at where my mother lives. And this was like 2 days before it was going to make landfall. And they're adjusting this. And this is like ground zero. I've got screenshots of, the predicted course and the wind speed, 130 kilometers an hour. It was a category 5. And it was a category 5. And it did hit dead on to where she was.
What place was it?
This is Naples, Florida.
I've been to Naples.
You've been to Naples.
Isn't that like a 2-hour drive from Miami?
Yeah,
So,
it's across the Everglades, across the bottom
I've been
of Florida.
to Naples.
Yeah.
It's a very nice place for old people.
Yeah, right. It is. And she's an old people, so it's very nice. And so I'm watching this, and what you do in a hurricane to deal with it is you get out of there, because you've got time. And so what you do is you get in your car and you take your documents, your important documents and whatever else that's extremely important to you. You shut everything down behind you, and you get in your car and you get on these interstates, which are then parking lots, because everybody's doing the same thing at the same time, right? You've got literally millions of people doing this. And so I'm watching this, and I am not liking the idea of my mother staying there,
Because unlike the Midwest and other parts, you can't really you don't have basements in Florida, right?
No, there's no basements. There's no
so you
such
can't
thing.
have any kind of a shelter like that.
No, there's no shelter. The buildings are actually built to be hurricane proof. But the problem is the aftermath, if it hits and you don't have electricity, which they didn't for 2 weeks. And then you get into all kinds of sanitary, hygienic messes and trauma, just sitting there. So my mother had the choice of, what do you do? And she had already sort of told them that she would leave. And so she had to go through all of the stress of trying to shut things down, and we didn't know how to do that and all this. And I'm, trying to work with her. I'm on the phone, and she's got her cell phone, and, but of course everything's up and working. And so she gets in her car finally. This was on Wednesday. Landfall was supposed to be Saturday. She gets in her car on Wednesday. She's so stressed out and just tired that she gets on the highway and she falls asleep at the wheel.
Oh, no.
And, they're moving it just a couple of kilometers an hour. It's not moving. It's not like but she hits the car in front of her.
So she rear ends the car.
She rear ends the car in front of her. And this turns into this incredible story of I had already bought tickets to visit her, having no idea, these things happen, when they happen. So I'd already bought tickets to come and visit. At this point, I had tickets in my hand. I knew when I was coming, right? And the whole thing, and all of this is happening as I'm getting ready to go there. And not that matters, but anyway, so she falls asleep. She hits the car. Of course, it's a traffic incident. They go to the side, and the woman that actually it was a woman and her nephew, my mother is stuck. You got a 90-year-old woman on this highway with a hurricane coming and all this. So these were really great people. They just said, well, you're going to come with us. Mm-hmm. You're going to go where we're going. And so these lovely people proceed to take my mother to where they were going, which was about 400 kilometers north. Mm-hmm. And they finally get there, and it's a complete ordeal, very long trip to get there and all of this stuff, but they finally get there. And so my mother is staying with these complete strangers, right? They're from the same area where my mother lives, right? But they're going to get out of there to go north, which is what you do, because it's going to go up the coast, and as the hurricane goes across land, it loses force. Right, it gains force over the water, loses force on land. So by the time it gets up there, it's going to be okay, So my mother ends up in these people's house. The storm then does hit on that Sunday, and it made landfall on Sunday. It goes up the coast. It takes out the entire electrical grid of the southern part of the state, including where she is 400 mm-hmm. kilometers north, right? So she's in this house with these strangers, no electricity, right? There's a curfew, meaning you can't freely mm-hmm. go around. There's gasoline rationing, mm-hmm. right? Because you can't bring trucks in with...
Well, kind of like there is now, where everyone is rushing to fill up plastic bags.
Yeah, right. Like you saw that somewhere. Yeah. Nobody was doing that then. I think people were smarter then. Yeah. People got more stupid over the last 4 years. But anyway, so she ended up there. And of course, she doesn't want to be there mm-hmm. because she's... For one thing, it's, she's got to take her medicine. The lady really helps her. She's got to get a prescription filled to take her medicine and all this stuff. The lady helps her with everything. But my mother wants to get out of there. So she rents a car. She's 90 years old. She rents a car, and she's going to drive somewhere else to get a motel room. She doesn't make a reservation. I said, you need to make a reservation before you do this. She doesn't make a reservation. She proceeds to, this is too long, but anyway, so she proceeds to drive. She makes a wrong turn, right? She's trying to go one place. She ends up another. She ends up right near Walt Disney World, which is a major, gigantic thing.
Orlando.
Yeah, in Orlando. Yeah. This whole place was like somewhere north of Orlando. Mm-hmm. She was going to come south, or whatever the thing was. Anyway, so she ended up in her car overnight, and I'm talking to her in the car. She's got her cell phone.
90-year-old.
Yeah, 90 years old, and she's trying to deal with this whole thing, and she's doing fine. And I'm trying to figure out where she is, because she doesn't know where she is. She's just in a parking lot of some, standard place of which there's 2 million in the United States that are almost identical. Yeah. And she's telling me where this is, so I locate it on a map, what I think it is. It isn't there. It's somewhere else completely. Anyway, she ends up in a motel for several days, and until it was like 2 weeks before they got electricity on and she could go back, because it was a direct hit on Naples.
Yeah.
And then it just went, north and took everything, took a lot out in its wake. And anyways, so I think it was actually the right thing for her to do, because where she lives, if you actually had to stay where you live, no. But there's a place there where that's a medical facility where she lives. Mm-hmm. It's a community, and she could have gone there. But even they They've got generators, gasoline, generators and the whole thing. They were at a point where they just had electricity, no air conditioning, and so on and so forth. So that would have been extremely stressful also. So I don't know if it was the right decision. I've been second.
Well, she survived it, so
She survived it, yeah, thankfully. And, but anyway, so with a hurricane, you got time, but
yeah, wow.
It's complicated if you're 90 years old.
Yeah. I remember visiting Naples in May 2018.
What were you? Oh, yeah. It really did a number on Naples. Naples was, that storm wiped out it's a lot of artificial, it's like Dubai.
Yeah.
It's a very artificial.
I just had a thought, like how does one get home insurance in Florida? Is it possible to?
Yeah, it is. You have to actually buy flood
expensive.
insurance, and it just becomes extremely expensive because every time you buy it and they have another event.
I think that's the case in a lot of states in the U.S. then, the ones that are, prone to having hurricanes.
Yeah, flooding is more of a problem. Flooding has a federal program for it, and then the people go back and they build in the same place where they have floods, which is incredibly stupid, but that's another
Well, I guess the program, what is it called? The Natural Disaster Relief Act, something like that. Something
it
like
sounds
that.
like a good name for program, yeah.
Sounds appropriate.
If we don't have a program like that, we sure should have one. Yes. Another great idea from Big Apple Podcast.
Speaking of Irma, I remember that we were planning to go to Key West from Naples. And
what were you doing in Naples? Did you know somebody there or what?
Yeah, it was my friend's parents.
Grandma lived in Naples. No.
They are, my friend's parents, they're retired. So half a year they live in Florida. Well, the bigger half of the year they live in Florida for tax reasons. And then the other half they live in Boston. So, and they invited me to...
I understand. That was part of the attraction. Yeah.
Of Florida, yeah.
Of Florida, yeah.
So, and they have a nice condo there. So they invited me and I said, well, let me check how much the tickets are. And they're like, oh, we've already bought your ticket. I'm like, oh, I'm going. I am definitely going then. Yeah. So, and we were planning on going to Key West, which is the very south.
The very tip. Yeah.
And they have a fantastic road, on the south, and you have ocean on both sides. Well, it's not the ocean; it's the Gulf of Mexico, I think.
Well, on one side it's the ocean, on the other side, I worked in the middle of the Keys for.
So, and I saw the pictures, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be fantastic because of Irma. Most of the road was just destroyed, so we had to take a ship. So we went by ship.
Wow.
So, because it was May 2018, and I think only 2019 it was back to full service, so you could just use the road again.
It was bad.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ben, have you ever experienced any kind of a natural disaster?
Well, yeah, I've actually, when I was living in Vegas, I experienced an
living in
earthquake.
Vegas is a type of natural
disaster.
That's more of a man-made, technically, that's a man-made disaster.
Exactly. But it wasn't as bad as Inga's experience, but it was nowhere near as bad as Inga's experience. But I was working in a hotel there, and all of a sudden there was this earthquake, and I was working in a hotel which had 20 floors. Well, 19 because they don't have the number 13 in American buildings.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
But it was
not
pretty,
that we're superstitious. Yeah, right. Just,
all of a sudden,
we're very modern and scientific.
But at the hotel reception, all of a sudden, all the phones started ringing and everything was shaking, and people's things were strewn everywhere on the top floors. The bottom floors were not so badly affected by the earthquake. It was more the higher up floors, and mirrors fell off the walls and lamps came off the desk. It was pretty cool.
Nope.
I mean, no one was hurt.
Benjamin, was that an adventure?
It was quite an adventure.
Would you repeat it?
I hope you don't hold a grudge for me, joking over this adventure stuff. When was it? What year?
I think it was 2019.
Okay.
And then a couple of weeks after, there was another little earthquake, and I was in bed and I saw the pots and pans swaying in my kitchen. It was pretty cool.
I didn't know they had earthquakes in Las Vegas.
Yeah, they have quite a few. I mean, it's not far from Los Angeles, so you have these.
Yeah, it's probably on the same.
Not Category 9, but but they are. Yeah, it's still quite a cool experience. In England, apparently there are some minor earthquakes, and
really?
Yeah, it makes the headlines, but it's not really anything big at all. It's just
I would think of something like floods, heat waves maybe in England.
Floods are big in England, yeah, especially around Gloucestershire. But the earthquakes are basically just like your phone vibrating. It's not really, it's not really anything too big to know. But most recent disaster, I'd have to say, is I leave my windows open at night, and recently we had all this fluff around Novosibirsk. So
Natural disaster.
I had fluff all over my apartment, so that's a natural disaster, and it prompted me to buy a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine that?
See, that's how capitalism works.
Exactly.
Just release fluff into the air, and the vacuum cleaner industry.
Oh, it's booming.
Booming, yeah.
Exactly. So apparently the word for the fluff in English is called poplar. I had no idea about this until recently.
I
so
thought that
somebody
poplar
told me.
is the type of a tree.
It's the tree, but I think it's the fluff as well. That's
So poplar fluff.
I guess it's poplar fluff, yeah.
Okay.
So I only learned this year. So P-O-P-L-R.
Technically, I know that a lot of people are allergic to it, but technically, did you know that you can't be allergic to fluff itself? It's just the dust that it gathers.
Well, what happens is, I
collects.
remember when I first encountered this fluff, so-called fluff, is that I thought the way that you handle this is you open your windows wide
Oh.
to, increase the ventilation. I don't know what I was thinking. I probably was not thinking, and was the problem. And I ended up with this not horrendous, but really bad cough.
Aww.
Because I was sitting there, the remedy was worse than I was worsening it with every evening, and so don't breathe it in, right? You just want to minimize I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah, you don't.
But across our listeners, they may not have poplar fluff, right?
Lucky they, if they don't.
Well, I guess poplar is pretty common throughout Russia, isn't it? It's common.
It's pretty popular.
It's pretty popular.
Oh, student doing?
Wowzers.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking of that, but I said, nah, I'm not going to do that.
Is it too bad of a pun for you?
It was too bad of a pun for me.
No,
but I
it
enjoyed
wasn't.
it. As long as it's not on my conscience, I can enjoy it. Yeah.
So I think I've been lucky maybe because, growing up in Yakutia, then moving to Siberia, and not many natural disasters actually happen in these. Well, okay, in these parts. Well, there haven't been many natural disasters while I was living in these parts because, let's say in Yakutia, when I was living there, what you have nearly every single year is forest fires. But while I was living there, it was never as bad as it was this year because it was just horrible. It's hundreds of thousands of hectares of forest just burned. And the thing is that the government is saying that we're not going to put it down because it's not, profitable. So it's cheaper for them to just let everything burn down. What is burning right now than to put it down.
That's actually what you're supposed to do. Is just let them burn. I mean, Yellowstone, right? I think I may have mentioned this. Yellowstone National Park in the United States, very beautiful park. When I went there this was in the early 90s.
Wait, is that on fire right now?
Not right now, but it had been on fire. And so I'm driving through this, beautiful area, and it's in a lot of places it was completely burned down.
The reason why I ask that is that today I saw a picture that as of this day and today, Salt Lake City has the worst air quality in the world.
Yeah, I saw that recently. It was so surprising, but it's because Salt Lake City's in a basin, i.e. it's surrounded by mountains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the last time, not so long ago, some parts in Yakutia had the worst air quality in the world. And that was in the time of the forest fires. Yeah, they were bad. They were really bad. Yeah. So when some... disasters happen when we have such stressful situations. So usually there are three, let's say, scenarios, three types of behavior that people have. So some people just freeze and, they understand they need to do something, but they just can't. They just freeze. There are some people who are very calm, like, okay, we need to do this. We need to go there, they start acting, they're calm. And there are people who start to panic and, and scream and like, oh no, we're all going to die. So which one are you?
I've got to like. I mean, who's the chicken here?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be so.
Actually, I'm not panicking. I'm just trying to put my gust and try to do something.
So you're more on the acting
just
calm
trying
side.
to concentrate. What can I do right now to help my family members or to help myself? So as I have already had experience to work in National Survey for Seismic Protection for 5 years, and my mom is a senior scientist there right now. So she, the scientist, of course, and my mom taught us how to behave in this kind of situations, in particular during the earthquake. So you have to go under something hard. So to protect your head, first of all. So if there is something of like that, a hard surface to do, so you should stay in the frame of the door. So
it's interesting because well, nowadays they say that you should not stand in a doorway.
I thought I read that. Yeah,
because in modern houses, the way they're building houses now, it's it's no stronger than any other.
I missed the word steel frame. Steel.
Oh, so it's okay. Because I think nowadays it's not steel in most cases. It's just wood.
So our
like
door,
and wood, yeah.
Our door is steel right now in our flat.
Oh,
so it's really useful one. So
okay, that's
the hard surface or the frame of the steel frame of the door. So and of course the best one is to run away something open space to stay in the open space.
Which is why when you were a little girl, your instinct was to go to your mother.
Yes, to go back to my mom, so mom can help me.
Right? Yeah, that was actually.
I remember. Well, since you've mentioned earthquake, let's talk about the way we have to act when there is an earthquake. So, because I read and I saw some pictures that in case of an earthquake, the strategy should be drop, cover, hold on. So like meaning drop down onto your hands or knees so that you're not standing before the earthquake knocks you down, because if it's an earthquake, if it's a strong one, you're going to fall anyway. So drop to your knees, then cover, as you said, like go into the table or something like that, and then hold on, like just like hold on to your head, like try to protect
your head
and not move. Yeah, because they actually say that most of the deaths in case of earthquakes are because of something falling onto you.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I guess in this case, we're not talking about something as disastrous as, scale 9 earthquake, because in that case, the building just collapses very often.
Yeah.
So drop, cover, hold on. This is... and I remember a friend of mine who was working in Tokyo when there was an earthquake. There was quite a serious earthquake, but I think it was 6 on a scale.
They have a lot of earthquakes there, right? Yeah.
They do. And she said that, everywhere in Tokyo, you can see the stickers like drop, hold on, cover, like everywhere in buildings, elevators, everywhere, just because they have a high chance of that happening. So and immediately she remembered that, and she got onto the table, and she said that she was scared as hell, of course, but it helped her not to get injured. Yeah,
a lot of children in Armenia saved their lives due to this one going down under the tables, under their desks. So that's why they could save their lives.
By the way, in London at the Natural History Museum, they have I believe they might still have it. It's the earthquake simulator. And basically it simulates a Japanese supermarket, and there's a shaking floor, and it's
trying to test something.
It's pretty fascinating. So next time you're in London, check it out if it's still on.
What's it for? Like to see whether you could stand still?
How can people react in this situation, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like natural history means it's just sort of what's happening in nature. So it's just, a demonstration.
I remember the blue whale skeleton from there.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been there in so many years, but...
It's a fun place, yeah. But okay, so this is what you should do in case of an earthquake. Drop, cover, hold on. I'm going to repeat it, as many times as I can today, just in case. But, it's interesting because I read some articles, and some of them people said, if you're inside, stay inside. So like, don't try to go outside, because while you're trying to get outside, you're most likely to get injured. Because people would think like, oh, I need to get outside. But it's going to take time.
Yeah. Seconds, right.
Yeah. So if you are already outside,
Stay outside.
stay outside. But if you're inside, stay inside. Yeah. Oof.
It depends on situation.
Of course.
Actually, sometimes you have to hurry. You have to run, just to rush, because you can save your life. So stones won't fall on your head, and you can.
Mm-hmm. So we have Inga here, who's the leader. You are staying calm.
Yeah.
You know, you're telling people what to do. So, which I think is very important for everyone who's around. So, should anything happen, stick to Inga. Harry, what about you? What would be your reaction?
Well, I would hope that eventually I would get to be, trying to figure out what to do. I mean, that might not be my first thing. I don't know that I get control right away, but hopefully I would eventually and start looking. But
eventually, can last.
It can be too long.
Too long.
It takes too long to get there. I don't know. Yeah.
Benjamin, so does that mean
I hope
when you ask who else is the chicken, does that mean you're the chicken?
No, I'd be a good boy. If it weren't my property, I wouldn't be too sad. I mean, obviously, I don't want my own property to be destroyed by a natural disaster, in which case I would be distraught. But if I were in another building and no one was injured, I'd just be a good boy. And
I think in my case, that would depend on the type of catastrophe.
Yeah.
Because let's say if it's an earthquake, this strategy has been repeated, and it's been everywhere for so many times that you kind of remember. You're like, okay, I think I know what to do. But if it's like a fire or something like that, I think that I would either panic or just freeze, and being, lost. Like, what am I to do? What to do? Panic. Probably as a millennial would try to Google what to do in this situation. That's also possible. But yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Google it. Yeah.
If you can. Well, I mean, just because
quick Google it. Yeah.
Just because I was growing up in a part of a country where there are no we'd have no earthquakes in Yakutia. Sometimes we have floods, but it's not in the city, not in Yakutsk, it's in some kind of villages. So I've never been taught about any kind of natural disasters, what to do in case of fire. Nobody ever told us what to do.
In my home state, Ohio, there are tornadoes. That's the only natural thing, and they happen when they happen. But I think the basic idea is you do kind of the same thing as you do in an earthquake. You try to go under something.
So which states because you have Tornado Alley, is that?
Yeah, that's
is Ohio considered?
Boy, talk about
you have Oklahoma.
Boy, my aunt.
Oh, there is Oklahoma. Yeah, right. There is a state like that.
Yeah, like Oklahoma. My mother's sister. It's going to make my family sound disaster prone or something. But my mother's sister lived right in Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma. And she actually had the experience of having to go. Every house there has a basement, storm basement or hurricane basement, whatever they call it. And she actually went down into her basement, and the tornado came through and just leveled her house above her.
Yeah, I see stories about that,
it's
huge
just,
tornadoes.
Yeah, it's really horrendous. I mean, I can't even imagine. But, and it was just sort of okay. And found another house or whatever, I get. But wow, what an experience. Anyway, but yeah, so that's the kind of the
So Oklahoma, Kansas.
Yeah. I mean, the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
Remember the Wizard of Oz?
You would think of Midwest. Yeah. Oh, it sounds safe enough, but no.
No, it's got tornadoes. Yeah.
What about the North?
Floods
is
also.
North safe? Is there any kind of natural disaster happening in the North?
The only thing you've got is if along the Mississippi River, Ohio, just mainly Mississippi River, there's flooding and different parts there can be pretty serious flooding, which is north, and it can go north. I think they had floods along a lot of large parts of the Mississippi River that goes all the way up into North Dakota. I think the headwaters of it are in the Dakotas. So yeah, there's no escaping in the United States.
So wait, we've talked about what to do in case of a of an earthquake, in case of a tornado. If you're supposed to have a basement, so please go to the basement.
If you're in that area,
but usually, if you in the Midwest, they do have basements, right? Like
a lot of times, yeah.
But what to do in case of a hurricane?
Well, hurricane.
Like if you're in Florida, you just run away.
You just get out of there. You just get out of there. You get in your car, you pack your car up, and you just leave.
But what about other states? Because I know that sometimes there are hurricanes in the East Coast as well.
They will give you. You've got warning.
Oh, and then they'll tell you what to do.
Yeah, so you've still got maybe like days, and it's the weirdest thing in the world actually, because it's completely clear. You know, like my mother was leaving on Wednesday morning. It didn't hit that area until Saturday morning. That's 3 days? You know, so you're leaving, things look great. You know, it's a beautiful Florida day.
And then you come back.
And 3 days later, it's a complete disaster zone, you know. I mean, it's just, and so I think that even in it's also shifting. It usually loses speed. Although there's been hurricanes.
I remember stories about Hurricane Katerina as well, which hit.
Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah,
terrible one, right?
Remind me what New Orleans. Yeah. Wait, how do you say it? How do you pronounce the name of a city?
Well, there's different ways. You can say New Orleans, New Orleans.
Because we just discussed this place with Barbara, and she's like, "What did you say?" I'm like, "New Orleans." Oh, it's New Orleans. I'm like, I'm just gonna say NOLA. That's what people call it now. So NOLA is easier.
I think maybe New Orleans they got an interesting accent. I don't know how they pronounce it, but I think it's New Orleans.
Okay, so NOLA.
Different versions.
I remember we were planning to go there, and a friend of mine, because my name is Katerina, but everyone in the States calls me Katerina just because the E just disappears from there. And she's like, when we go there, why don't you say that your name's Katya? I'm like, why? She's like, well, think twice. I don't think they'd be very happy to meet a Katerina over there.
One more Katerina.
We didn't get to go, but I was like, when I go, I'm going to say that my name's Katya. So the short name. Okay, so and what do we do if there is a fire?
It depends what kind of fire. Electrical fire? Are we talking about a wildfire? Bushfire?
Let's talk first about the electrical one and then move to like forest fires. Because that has been happening a lot.
What I remember is you need to use carbon dioxide fire extinguishers on electric fires, if I'm correct.
Okay, what if... Well,
and you
let's
don't use any water, of course. Stay away from water on electrical fires.
That's actually a good point. I would not, when I'm panicking, that would be my first, my first instinct to. Yeah, well, the same. Have you seen videos of people who work in different like cafes and restaurants, and they have fire because of the oil, and then their first instinct is to put water, but then it just it explodes. Right. So yeah, but what if you're somewhere, you have no idea whether you have a fire extinguisher, and probably you don't have it if it's at home. What to do then? Just panic and run away? Not panic and run away? Because I don't have a fire extinguisher at home, for example. I have problems with wires. That's why I haven't been allowed to turn on the light in my living room for like 2 weeks already.
Right. Okay.
Maybe call the firefighters. When you're in a panic.
From the outside, probably, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's electrical fire, it's going to be kind of local, right? I mean, it's going to be in your house, yeah, or right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
don't try to put it down yourself. Call the professionals and evacuate immediately. Is that so then?
Well, it depends on
the right one to do. Maybe
it depends on what stage the fire's at. If it's just starting, then you should do something about it. You shouldn't rely.
But I mean, what if it's electrical? You are not allowed to put it down with water. What to do then? I mean, I just genuinely do not understand what to do.
Get a blanket and smother the flames.
Yeah, probably smother, but it'd have to.
Okay.
It would have to be the right kind of blanket.
Well, it depends how thick the blanket is. If it's really thick and you jump on the source of the fire.
if you could wet the blanket, if you had that kind of time, put it in the bathtub and wet the. I mean, if you
just don't touch it when you do that, I guess.
Well, you just throw it over it.
Throw it, right?
Yeah, throw it over it. I can't even imagine.
So many
I don't know what water. What does water do right with electrical? Is that a bad?
No.
No, it's a bad idea. So you wouldn't want to do that.
So the best thing then is to have your what is it? Carbon dioxide fire extinguisher? You said?
Yeah, carbon dioxide.
I have a funny story about fire extinguishers. But yeah. All right, and what if
Okay.
intrigued enough?
Right, yes. As long as it's a funny story about
is a funny
carbon
story.
dioxide. Okay, well,
Because I'm not. Wait, when it's like white powder inside, is it carbon dioxide fire extinguisher or is it something different?
I'm
No,
not
it looks
sure.
like that. White powder, right?
Yeah, like when you use it as like white powder. Because the thing is that I remember starting working at a school, and I was the class teacher of fifth graders who like 12 years old. And I remember having a lesson, and then the headmaster of the school just knocks on my door and is like, "We need to talk." And I'm in the middle of a lesson, like, okay. So when I leave the classroom, she's like, "Do you know what your kids did?" I'm like, "I have no idea." She's like, "Follow me." So and she takes me to a place and the whole floor is white. I'm like, what is happening? What has happened here? She's like, "Well, several of your kids," who are 12 years old, "broke the fire extinguisher." And then I later talked to kids, how on earth can you break a fire extinguisher? It has, this protection thing, like, how do you call it? Like,
Clip, yeah.
yeah, like
yeah.
how? Look, it was an accident. Up to this day, I still do not understand how on earth you can break a fire extinguisher when you were 12 years old. Of course, when you were 12 years old, you were destructive.
Teenagers can, kid.
Yeah,
Teenagers can.
Yeah, maybe just drop it. If you drop it the wrong way, maybe. Do you think?
I don't know. To me, it should be, handle more things than that, fire extinguishers. So yeah, up to this day, a mystery. All right, and what about let's say forest fires? So this is a problem that has been happening a lot. We have Australian forest fires, we have California, we have Yakutia. A lot of places in the world are on fire. So what to do if you have a forest fire?
Jump in a lake.
Boy, if you had a lake, yeah, that would be a great place to be.
Fair enough.
Right?
Any other ideas? So I would say that it depends on where you are in terms of.
I think you probably just leave is what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, it's just.
Well, yeah, but if we think about, let's say, Yakutia, it's cut off from the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So it has a river, but when there were forest fires, the ferries were not going. So because it was so, there was so much smoke that you had no planes, no ferries. So you couldn't even leave the Republic if you wanted to, because you would need to cross the river if you're going by car, for example. So a lot of people had a problem. So there was smoke everywhere. So they would buy oxygen, in a tank. Even with closed windows, there was still smoke. A lot of people were coughing, a lot of people with asthma, kids, they were suffering. So, and they say that what may help is when you close all the windows. Of course, it's really stuffy and hot inside then, but put wet blanket on the window so that, it absorbs still at least some of the smoke. I mean, if you can't leave from them. But that's about, dealing with the smoke from the forest fires. I know that in case of Australia, they just tried to evacuate to the cities which were safer.
Yeah, when I think of forest fire, of course, it's not exactly true, but it's, the American way of just having separate houses. And, if you happen to live in an area that's in real danger, I think you just need to get out of there, right? Because it's just extremely dangerous.
Yeah, if you can, just go. Just go. Yeah. Okay. What about floods? How to act in case of a flood?
We should go somewhere higher, the highest point, as high as you can.
Yep.
Well, obviously, recently in the news, Germany, Belgium, I think the Netherlands have been devastated by floods.
They actually say that's been because of the forest fires.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the scale of the forest fires was so huge that, it was too much of CO2 emissions. So that changed the way of what is happening in the atmosphere, with the clouds and everything. So it changed the wind and whatever else.
Oh, wow.
So, and that affected the rivers and everything. So they say because of the forest fires within the last several years, part of Europe is experiencing floods. But yeah, so you have to go somewhere higher.
Don't try, of course, to travel to swim in this just flood. To go somewhere to find your just relatives, or because it is really dangerous. You don't know how the currents can change, and it can bring you to drag you to dangerous situations.
Yeah, I think the internet told me that you should not walk, swim, or drive through floodwaters.
Well, just
Yeah, I mean, just don't
try to
do that.
it
right?
may look, as something you can do, but usually, have you seen some videos? Because I think a month ago there was a flood in Sochi area, and they just showed, cars just
flowing
floating down the
floating
river,
down. So it looked scary. Yeah, we used to have floods in Yakutia, but it never reached the city itself, so it was never a problem to the city citizens, but it always hit the villages. So they would be evacuated. And I just, when I was a kid, and I still don't understand. So when people experience a flood, when there is water in the houses, they can't use electricity after that, can they? I mean, they have to. How?
No, I think that would wipe out the whole system. You wouldn't have electricity.
I don't even understand up to now that people try to build buildings near the water. So it's
that's
kind of a natural disaster. So one day you don't know, it's unpredictable that one day you will have tsunami or I don't know, just earthquake or it's just everything, flood.
Well, the Netherlands is an amazing country because it's been, the way the country's been organized is by a system of dikes, which is a system of canals which kind of prevent flooding. However, cities like Amsterdam are prone to, have the potential to be flooded in the future, and engineers are developing floating houses, for instance.
Oh, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so buy a floating house.
Yeah, I think, well, we were supposed to get this education at school, about how to act in case of natural disasters. We never did. Instead we were just talking about how important it is, to know the content of an AK-47 or something like that. Or just, listening to stories of our teacher about his army days. But really...
I love those stories. Those are the best stories. Army days. Oh, no, I love listening to that.
So, and then when you have, a natural disaster, you're like, at least now I can remember all those stories.
You'll have a few minutes to remember those great stories before you're washed away or whatever.
But I think we now we should teach, all the kids and everyone how to act, because these situations are happening more often these days, I think, compared to the past. Remember last year? Remember Texas last year? Texas, the South. And then they had these cold wave when a lot of things just froze. They didn't have electricity because of that. They didn't have water. And I saw that some people, the way they do it in Texas with electricity, if you pay a set amount of money every single month, but then if you exceed it, and usually nobody does, you have to pay way more. And you can imagine, in case of that, very cold weather, a lot of things freezing, a lot of people got their bills of $15,000 per month.
Right.
They just had,
Yeah, they've got ridiculous, free market, gone wild type of solutions, unique to Texas. Texas closed themselves off from the rest of the grid, right? And they just got their own thing. Mm-hmm. And most of the time that's great. And somebody saves, a couple of dollars a month on their electric bill. And then they get into a situation like that stresses the system. They can't go outside the state because you literally don't have the wires running anymore. And then you end up with, very bad situations.
I remember when, people were just surviving. They were hosting other people who didn't have electricity or water. And at that time I was teaching online, and I had a couple of students from Texas, and they, just send me an email somehow like, I'm sorry, I won't be able to be in class today because we have no electricity and we have 35 people in our house. Oh, wow. But I remember that the governor of Texas at that time, posted a message I'm stay strong, Texas, but he was in Puerto Rico at the time. Everyone was so furious with him. He had to, officially apologize and go back to Texas.
Yeah, he got out. He got out of there. He saw that something bad was happening,
I am the governor of the state, and I'm out of here.
Yeah, right. That's right.
That's how you do it.
Leading by example, right?
Yeah. So, and what to do in case of an avalanche? Because I'm not sure how widespread that is, but if you go snowboarding, if you go mountain skiing, you might want to know how.
So you dig I remember hearing this one thing. If you have a coin in your pocket, you dig a hole. If you're buried in an avalanche, you dig a hole and you throw the coin up, and you know which way. You know which way is up, and you just dig. You dig upwards.
They
so
say
you throw. Wow, that's
Well,
interesting.
maybe not
Yeah,
a coin if it's completely dark, but
yeah, because you could actually dig down, right?
Well,
by
they say
mistake.
if you don't
Wow.
have anything like that, if you like don't have anything, try to put a little bit of saliva out of your mouth, because then if you're upside down, it will go
Oh my goodness!
you
Well,
up.
I mean, you would know if you were upside down.
No, you wouldn't.
Not
If
necessarily.
you're under snow, you don't know. You have no idea.
Oh my goodness!
That's the thing.
Awful.
You're completely lost and disoriented. So yeah.
I mean, wouldn't there'd have to be other indications, but maybe not.
Well, if there are, then you're kind of lucky. But yeah, there aren't always
Okay.
things like that. Yeah, I know that if you are, let's say, snowboarding or mountain skiing and you see the avalanche actually coming, don't try to overrun it, because that's never going to happen. Instead, they say try to move to the side so that you don't get buried under it. Then if you are under snow, try to first find out where's the up, where's the down, and then dig in that direction. And then they also say if you understand that it's inevitably going to cover you, hold one arm up. So it might be that the snow will only cover, part of your body. And then, the rescuers might find it easier for you to actually find you. So, yeah. And they also say if you are under snow and you're not sure if you can actually make your way up, make some room to breathe. So at least, create some space for you to breathe so that you don't suffocate. Because most of the deaths in case of an avalanche are from asphyxia. Yeah. So when you don't have enough air. Yeah, but there's been a lot of stories about,
every year skiers die at ski resorts as a result of avalanches.
I know a girl, she used to be my student, and they went up the mountains in Altai. So, with all that equipment going up. And they said that the whole of their team had the second birthday that they now celebrate, because an avalanche just went down 10 meters on the right from them.
Oh my God.
And they're like, we were all so scared, but literally they now celebrate it as their second birthday. It's like a miracle. Because can you imagine just 10 meters? I cannot imagine how scary that must have been for them. Yeah. I think that's why what I mostly do is just sit at home and watch my TV shows. Very safe.
I just thought of, it's not quite an avalanche, but in Russia, obviously there's snow everywhere during the winter, and
Yep.
and usually snow and ice can fall off the roofs of buildings.
Yes, and that every year that kills at least several people, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why they say, don't walk along the building in winter. Yeah, that's. Can you imagine the weight of that ton of snow that falls down the roof? Yeah, it's also dangerous.
Dangerous world.
Oh yeah, it is. No matter what, you can. Remember how we talked about, air crashes and, different catastrophes, and you said that you have a higher chance of being killed by a donkey in your living room. So, and when you think about all the things that can go wrong when you're just sitting in your living room, it's a scary
Right.
life.
That's right. Yeah.
So, in what to do, it's not a catastrophe as such, but how to act when you're outside and there is a thunderstorm.
To hide somewhere, just to go to enter to some entrance.
Okay, what if you're outside, meaning like you're outside, like in a field, in a forest,
Okay, what am I doing in the field?
picking up flowers, being a flower fairy as you are? I don't know, maybe you're taking a photo shoot in the field of sunflowers. People do that. Looks beautiful.
Maybe lying down, just lying down.
Okay, that's a good.
And of course,
that's a good
covering
tip.
your head as well.
Actually, I read that it's better to kind of go into a ball-like position, just because when you're flat, apparently it's easier for lightning to hit you. And then all my life, I used to think that if you are in a situation like that, you should go under the tree and it's going to be fine.
No.
And then, people
No
should
way.
be like, that's exactly what you should never do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think the thing with the going into a position where you're just protecting your head and is that the danger point is where your feet touch the ground. And that's why you want to minimize that, right? So you just want to just have the ball, like it says, I saw, be on the balls of your feet, you know, and covering your head, and just so that your only point of contact. So I guess if somebody gets hit by lightning, then it damages the soles of your feet.
Oh.
But if you had more of your body, then it could damage isn't the right word. Injure your.
Yeah, and then you should not be anywhere high because, you know.
Right, try to go low, yeah. And so it's low, but kind of minimal contact with the ground, I guess is the
Again,
idea.
I never used to know these things because, you know, growing up in Yakutia, we only had like a thunderstorm, maybe once during the summer if we were unlucky or lucky, I do not know, maybe unlucky. I still remember one thunderstorm, and it was like, you know, after that, when I moved to Siberia and I had my first thunderstorm, I literally went under the blanket. I'm like, that's too loud and too scary and too bright. Because in Yakutia, it never happens like that. It's a little bit of thunder, a couple of lightnings, but I still remember a thunderstorm we had when the lightning, there was a strong wind as well. And I think it hit the, what is it, like electricity posts, or how do you call these things with?
Oh, the power lines.
The power lines. I seem to be to become bilingual when both of my languages are getting worse. So sorry. So yeah, and apparently it hit the power lines, so we didn't have electricity for 2 days. Lovely days when we had, you know, the whole of the house, which is 12 apartments, had a fire in the, you know, just outside and cooking in tons.
Yeah, well, it would have been in summer, right? Or sometime
So can you imagine 2 of the freezers full of meat and fish just went bad. Yeah, it was just one neighborhood, not the whole town. Just 1 or 2 neighborhoods that were without electricity for 2 days. So, yeah.
When I lived in New York, they had some kind of a major storm, and it took out a power station, a substation, and took out the entire neighborhood for 4 or 5 days. It took them to get.
Oh wow!
To get the thing restored, and of course all the food went bad. You know, there was no emergency. I mean, there's certain things you can do for emergency to recoup that, but which was when I went to the museums, because I couldn't be at home. I couldn't do anything there, so I went to the Guggenheim, and actually what happened was it was extremely hot.
Oh,
it was extremely hot. It was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that made the substation melt. The air conditioning, it's not really a natural disaster, but it's too much load, you know, too much energy use, and it just took out the substation. But it took out the whole neighborhood, you know, big tens of thousands of people, and but I got to see the Guggenheim Museum, and I got to see
10 times.
I think I went to natural history. I don't remember which I did. I went to a bunch of museums that I should have gone to a bunch of other times as well, but.
Well, you say it's not a natural disaster, but in a way, you know, heat waves.
It is.
We can say the heat waves are a natural disaster, right?
Yeah, sure.
Somehow they are.
Yeah.
Like this year in Moscow, that was horrible when they had like 35, 37, 38 degrees for a very long time. And it's Moscow, you know, it's concrete everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know that a lot of people with weak hearts, you know, they died because of the heat. And I read a lot of tips on how to deal with a heat wave, you know, like to if you have a bathtub, like fill it with cold water ice, close your windows, like, you know,
drink a lot of water.
Yeah, like all these things. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about earthquake, hurricane, avalanche. So anything else? I think we've covered it all.
Meteorite in Chelyabinsk. That immediately came to my mind.
Yeah,
that's a very, very often happening natural disaster, right?
Not too often, but yeah, I just remember, how long ago was it? 8 years ago?
It was 2014, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Sounds possible. Yeah.
Have you seen all those footage, like the dash cam footage?
Yes, I sure have. Sure, yeah.
But people, like, very often people are just so calm, like, oh, okay. Like, what? You have a meteorite falling and you're just so calm?
It is a usual thing for them.
Well, yeah. We never know.
Every day.
Like, we don't know what's happening over there in Chelyabinsk.
Right.
Okay. I think we've covered it all. At least most of them. So, yeah. Do you have, if you had to give our listeners one piece of advice regarding these natural disasters, what would it be?
Learn
Stay
how
away.
to use a fire extinguisher.
I would say have one at least,
One at
one.
least, right?
as a start. Okay.
One piece of advice.
What
I
was a
guess
wisdom
well,
from you,
how
Gary?
about this? How about just be prepared? Think about it beforehand. Like even
Okay.
this little review here that we just had, that's
Okay.
pretty useful.
Well, you can buy the SAS Urban Survival Guide. Or just
The what now?
The SAS Survival Guide. It's a great guide. The SAS is the Special Secret Services of the UK.
Okay.
And they publish this amazing book. Great for your English. Check it out. And it's fascinating. It tells you everything from what to do in an emergency and from what fruits and vegetables or what berries not to eat, for instance,
How
in
to
the
survive
wild.
on a stranded island.
Yeah. So yeah, the SAS survival book.
Okay. Sounds cool. Inga, do you have?
I want to advise not to panic, to try to concentrate as much as possible to help yourself and your relatives, people around you.
Yeah. Easier
The
said
most
than
useful
done
one, I think.
sometimes, but yeah.
Don't panic.
I'm going to use all these, pieces of advice, all your wisdom. Yeah. All righty. And just as usual, I have some questions to our listeners. So have you ever been in a situation when, there was a natural catastrophe? I hope you haven't. So if you don't leave comments, I will say, okay, that means that you haven't been in a natural catastrophe. But we also need comments. I love chatting. So,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. Have you
share
had
their
your
experience.
lessons about, safety and what was it called? Like, what was this subject called?
Social science?
Health and safety.
Health and safety. Yeah,
Health
I think
and
it was
safety.
more like that. Yeah, health and safety. So, and if so, what did you learn there? Because I sure learned nothing from that, my school, my day.
I don't think they had health and safety when I was when I was in school. We didn't.
Living in a state which had
tornadoes.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
So teenagers should comment. So if they have
Yeah.
any kind of
Yeah. Or people in their early 20s who still remember what it was like. Well, I mean, depends on your memory. Looking at Gary, wink,
right.
wink.
right.
All right. Well, that was the Big Apple School podcast. And today we discussed natural disasters, natural catastrophes. Thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you are always welcome to our website, which is
www.bigappleschool.com/podcasts.
Seriously, Gary, you used to be better at this.
I was more.
It was a
I
memory
have to
check.
be. I have to be concentrating, thinking about
So
it. I have to be
see?
ready. I'm not ready
Yeah.
for the disaster at the end of each. Right? Yes.
He said, I'm not ready for the disaster, and looked at me.
No.
Okay. Okay, so on this website, you can find scripts of each episode. So it is really interactive and really fun to use. And if you want to have even more content which will help you learn English, you can browse the website, which is bigappleschool.com in general, to find different articles, videos, you name it. And you can also follow us on the social media such as Instagram, VK, YouTube, Telegram. We are literally everywhere. Just search our name, which is again, Big Apple School. So that was Katja, and my guests for today were
Gary.
Yep.
Benjamin.
Stay tuned, and we'll see you around.